Hey, what's up, guys? So the matchmaking is in for next week, which is season 8, week 4. Let's take a look at where I'm at with the season so far. So here's my ranking, and I was able to go 2-1 after a 1-2 week. So it brought me up to about the same. Maybe I'm a few numbers higher or lower than I was after the first week. But for the most part, I'm in roughly the same spot. Here's the ranking for the matchmaking for this week. And what I'll do is I'll go through each person starting with me. So as you can see, Updog is in this matchmaking with me. And I think this is the third time we've matched or been in the matchmaking, and we've actually battled once. So it would be nice if we could meet up in a battle and be able to stream it. And I see that WACD is in here again. And I think he was just in the matchmaking last week with me, but I don't think I've ever battled him. And I just battled Stark last week. So some of the same guys in here from previous times. And here's my defense. And what I'm thinking is the shift to guys putting Pegasus on defense now is timely for me to keep Infinity Watch on offense. It makes it a little bit harder to beat without having Pegasus. And it doesn't seem to have taken away from the plan I had before of causing more confusion on what to use with Mercs and Bishop. In the end, though, it allowed me to take Out of Time out of room 1. And I had Dorm in there previously, and then I moved Dorm to room 6 with Spider Society a while back. And now I'm able to use the Out of Time trio with Tangle Web. And I think that makes for a tough defense. For the most part, it really allows me to put Rogue and Gambit back in room 3. So now I have that Rogue Extreme defense going, which is usually pulls the Masters of Evil. And so if it can do that, that's good. If it pulls a period 6, that's fine. But I think those would be the main 2 counters that be used on that room, so it kind of limits options. Going to keep Skrull Hive Mind in 5. I think for the most part, guys are going to come with a Cabal, or if they do counter it, they'd use a Skrull or some type of Apoc counter. And that allows me to keep Spider Society with Dorm. I think Spider Society is really good without Dorm. There are probably 4 or 5 counters that will probably work, as opposed to with Dorm, maybe it's only 2 or 3. So just trying to limit options. Most likely, I think what I'll do is I will throw Quicksilver back in here. After last week, it seemed to be a problem for my opponent when he was using an Eternals counter. I think it was Eternals and Shang-Chi, and he maybe had Tangle Web on defense. So we'll put Quicksilver in here. I think we'll make that quick change, and we'll run it like this. So that's the plan going to next week, guys. And we'll see how this matchmaking goes, who I get matched with first, which could be Updog because I'm at the top, he's at the bottom. They do that sometimes. And maybe we'll get that going on Monday. So I got matched with Birdman, and Updog got matched with Elite Danger. So this is Birdman, and here are my stats. And I made some changes to my defense from Saturday. I saw a couple screenshots and also Desir's video, and I decided to go ahead and move my Spider Society to room 1. So that's the big change there. And I wanted to try out Sunfire with basically the Extreme X-Men. So it's like a 3-piece Unlimited X-Men and a 3-piece Extreme X-Men, and see how that does. And then instead of going with Dorm, because originally I was going to go with Dorm in room 3, I pulled Dorm and threw back in Cyclops and said, let's just see how that goes, because they're going to probably do Masters of Evil on it or some version of. And what I'll do is put Dorm in 4 for the chance to make it a little messier with the revives, and decided to go with Black Order in 6. And Desir brought up Juicy getting some wins with this team. And I saw some screenshots of guys running this, and the only one I had at 100 was Thanos. So I spent the weekend taking the rest of them up to 100 and G18 in them. And so we'll see how this goes. So you guys have seen Infinity Watch with Quicksilver and Straight Infinity Watch and Pegasus being used against them plenty of times. So I'm not going to talk through this one much. I think the main thing to focus on is just to understand you got to just wait through their attacks because they still are faster than Pegasus. And then focus in on, of course, the Quicksilver. And then I think at a key moment where Gamora was in the yellow was an opportune time for me to just permakill her with the Kestrel ult. And so that was a move that I may have made that may be a little bit different here. So I've been hearing quite a bit that the Horsemen will not work with the Mercs of Money when you have the Rogue and Nightcrawler here. But the way my rooms were laid out, I said I got to try it to see because I hadn't seen anything. And when I look at the counter sheet, of course, it's not on there. And that's Sasquatch's counter sheet I'm talking about, the MSF counter sheet. So I go in and I try it. And the main thing is that this team is so fast, there's nothing slowing them down. And Rogue goes in and she's going to ability block somebody. Now in this case, I don't know that who she ability block was crucial, but you can see the damage that's just being done to this team. And so it's like, well, let's just see what Apoc can do. And he doesn't do much. And that's when I was like, yeah, just back out and try something else. And so it's like, okay, you're going to have to use Cabal here. And Room 5 plans immediately changed, where it's like, okay, you're going to use Apoc and probably Doom. And you're going to have to use Emma and Cable. I said, well, before you do that, let's just see, because maybe Undying will work. And so, because I wanted to have the speed advantage, or so I thought, so I put in Emma. And my first thought was, do I slow the old man Logan here? I said, no, still try to slow Nightcrawler. He dodges, and there's your problem. Now he dodges, and there's no crit yet. And so the question is here, now you see old man Logan is going to work. So the question is here, what's next? And once again, Rogue goes in and she ability blocks. Now she ability blocks the Iron Patriot, and you'll see a pattern with that because she's going to ability block Iron Patriot again in the next battle. And so this one is pretty much wrecked because I don't have anybody else that can really do a lot of damage in the turns. You see Vulture is stunned. You see Iron Patriot he's going to come back around, but he has 2 ability blocks. And it's like, okay, what are you going to do? So my thought is, well, let's see if you hit Nightcrawler. No. Okay, hit old man Logan. You can't kill him. Well, you do kill him, but he comes back. And so you're just in trouble because your Iron Patriot still can't go. And so this one is not going to play out well. And at the end, as you guys know, I'm going to have to go ahead and cancel it out. But I just wanted to go through it a little bit more just to see the damage that's going to get put in. And that's why I slowed it down to 2. And old man Logan is already on his ult, so it's pretty much game over for this counter. As you're gonna need somebody that can come in and probably, in my first thought, ability block the Rogue so she can't use her special to block probably Iron Patriot. It seems like who she's programmed to go after. Or in the hindsight of using the Zemo on this attack, you know, as you guys will see, I'm going to go into this attack and I'm debating, but I use Zemo's ult on the Nightcrawler, and perhaps, you know, this can work on the Old Man Logan. This is a 7 yellow 5 red Old Man Logan, so that was my concern. It's like, well, I did take my Zemo to 18 as 1 diamond. Will it stick? And so you'll see here in a minute is where I'm contemplating it. But at the end of the day, I'm thinking that this team is gonna you're gonna have to either sack it, or you're gonna have to go in with somebody that's gonna be able to take care of the rogue, her special, and possibly ability to block the Old Man Logan. But let's just see how this one plays out so you guys can determine for yourself. Since I couldn't beat room 2 in 1 or 2 hits, and I'm pretty sure 3 hits was going to be a guaranteed loss, it's just about saving Cabal here and go ahead and try out these Eternals with Masters of Evil and those switch rooms the Seer made the suggestion about. So since I had lost in the Mercs room, it wasn't cleared, and I got like a last second message from Desir saying, no, don't use your superior 6 here, go ahead and use your SD here. I said, okay, well, I'll try it. And I've seen guys going with SD Lizard, so I said, well, let me just try it. I hadn't used it in a long time, but this will be the time to go ahead and try it. So I'm sticking with the new revised plan where I'm going to use the Superior 6 on 4. It's like, let me just throw an Apoc, we'll clean this up and get this one out the way. So I'm pretty sure I had tried this before, and I think I won, but it didn't go well. And since I couldn't really remember if it was this season or another season, so let's go ahead and try it and see. But at any rate, let's just let this play so you guys see how it plays out. So I saw this Dorky Dad counter on the Sasquatch MSF counter sheet, and I said, well, yeah, let's go ahead and try it, because I've been wanting to find a way to use my Eternals more, and I'm starting to think that there may be a use for Abomination on another team. So that was a pretty serious beatdown. And looking back on the rooms, of course, room one went fine. So hindsight is 100% or 2020, whichever way you prefer to look at it. And my hope going into the Merc team with Nightcrawler and Rogue using the Horsemen with Emma was that maybe Emma would slow down the rest of the team outside of Nightcrawler. And as you see, that didn't happen. This team was too fast. So that counter is just not going to work on them. I can't think of anyone else that could even possibly try to slow them down in this combination. So you got to go with a Cabal team. And I've tried to think about combinations that make it work. You know, when you look at the first team and the second team, the first team being with Emma was still the same concept. Like maybe Emma can slow down the rest of the team. She does not. And then the second team using Vulture is like, well, maybe you can get a slow on somebody important, and you cannot, because Nightcrawler is going to give the entire team evades. And I'm not even sure if Zemo is going to land his ability block on the old man Logan. Perhaps he can, but after that, you don't have any way to make sure that you're gonna land on anybody else because of the evades and the speed this team has. So it'll take some more thought to really figure out if there's a fifth when you're looking at Cabal with Zemo and somebody else that could really benefit this team. And since you have Zemo, maybe that fifth is not a villain. Could be a hero. So that's going to take some thought. But at the moment, it just appears that this team is going to take the nuke. It's going to take the Kang and the Titania, go with Cabal, and then that way you can take care of it with no problems. The sequence of my opponent's defense would have called for that most likely, and then you just have to go in to room 3 with a new Warriors. And I had a brief chat with Updog, and he said he battled this guy last week, and I kind of remember the battle, and he said you'd be fine using new Warriors on 3. So that kind of means your Cabal, Kang, Titania would have to go on 2. And it's still not for sure that a Doom Apoc version can beat the Skrull hive mind. So there's still a risk factor there that, you know, you may go in, you get the RNG. If you go in with like an Emma and a Cable and then somebody else, that you may get it and you may not, and you have to go back in until you do get it. So either way it goes, this is a tough defense, which at the moment I think I'm going to mimic his room 2 because it forces such a hard decision on rooms 2 and 5. And then that would just mean to try to make a stronger room 3 than what he's presenting, so as to make some confusion on whether new Warriors could work there or not. And here, I'm not sure what Guardian was going to do. I think he was just experimenting with Guardian. Perhaps if he had gone with Sunfire, and I guess he didn't get North Star, but if he had those 3, I probably would have had a real hard time in here. But this, I think, was a really good, smooth counter. I saw it on Sasquatch's MSF counter sheet. It was a Dorky Dad counter. I said, you know, it's a good idea to start using Eternals with Masters of Evil. And so it went very well. So I may start using that a little bit more. This was like not the original plan. I was going to go with Secret Defenders, had a last minute chat with Desir, and he said, no, use them on 6 and don't use your Superior 6 on 6, use them here. And I said, okay, well, I could try that. And since I had already had problems with room 2, I said, let's just try it and see. Now, going forward, I think I'll do it the other way, because the biggest concern with Secret Defenders here will be the Black Knight. And so you'd have to deal with that. And maybe, because my thought was Secret Defenders with Big Time, or maybe even Nova, you just never know, that might work. But I think I've beaten before the Spider Society with Dorm with straight Superior 6. So next time I'll be more inclined to go that route, because even with this counter here, the efficiency was so low, it's not a go-to in a sense. So I think I'll just try it the other way around next time. And here, since I didn't have Cabal, because as a last-ditch effort I was going to go in with Apoc and Doom and use like Emma Cable, something like that, and somebody else to try to see if I could get the win, just to see if it would work. But since the Cabal was there, it's like, we'll just use them here. And this is where the Secret Defenders Lizard didn't work. And so I was like, well, let's just go see it through. So I used Apoc here just to clear it out, so I could try the Superior 6 on that Soup 6 Black Knight. But for me, I think I will, like I said before, I'll use the Secret Defenders, maybe big time on 4, and go back in with Superior 6 here, because I don't think I've had a problem with Superior 6 beating this team. So once Birdman attacks, I'll add in his attacks. I got a message from Updog and from Flint, actually. They both said he's probably got Mephisto now. If not, he's really close. So if he has Mephisto, he'll use him on offense, and this will probably would have been a loss anyway. But once he gets his results in, I'll add him in. The results are in, and as expected, my opponent one-shot all my rooms. But let's just take a look to see how this went. This counter was originated by Updog, and I think we've seen it played out enough, so I'm not going to show it here. But clearly he was extremely efficient with it. On room 2, he did use Cabal, what I did not expect to work, which is slightly above average score, and that's perfectly fine on this room, is that he went in with Vulture and Doom. And so I want to see how this plays out to see if Doom was useful. So it appears he used Vulture's basic to single target the Bishop, and that maybe was the move that set the play up here, because he didn't put any damage onto the old man Logan. And this was a really good counter. Doom was useful, played a huge part, and it's only the revives from Pandapool that brought down his efficiency. So that's a good lesson on where I'm at with this team on defense. Another good lesson in that this rogue extreme is just being countered too easily now by the regular Masters of Evil. And this has happened a few times this season, so clearly the usefulness of this team for where I'm at in the game has faded, and there needs to be a change. So he's using North Star here, and I like to see this plays out because he went in with Tangle Web as well, and he has Lizard and Apoc. Clearly a strong counter for this room, and at the same time it got a very low efficiency. So let's just see how this plays out. So North Star definitely had his usefulness. His ult hit and hit for good damage. So the blind that was put on his team by my Weaver wasn't affected by North Star or Apoc. And clearly Apoc was the carry here, the 3-diamond G19. But overall, it appears that the Tangle Web in this room did cause for low efficiency. So that's a good lesson to take forward from this battle here. In room 5, I'm wondering if it makes sense to run Skrull anymore. Now, clearly, as Mephisto on offense, and that's not going to happen much. And it'll be interesting for you guys to see how this plays out, because I did watch it. At the end of the day, though, Updog created a counter last night using the Skrull hive mind to beat one of the hardest variations of the Old Man Logan team with Nightcrawler in room 2. And so that's something to consider, as well as, is it time for Skrull to go to offense? But let's just take a look to see how this plays out. And Black Order with Quicksilver in room 6 was a decent play here. He did use New Warriors, but clearly his efficiency is low, so it was beneficial for me to use them here in this way. But let's just take a look. So it was interesting to see how this plays out, and I'm still glad I took Black Order up. Taking Black Order up as high as I did is not for everyone. It's like a Infinity Watch move, and highly not recommended for new players or even mid-game players. It's just a team that, in the era that I'm in, where we did a year of Black Order versus Black Order in Arena, mine was pretty well built from that time, so I was able to capitalize on that for a lot of things that's happened in the game this year so far. So let's just go back to this room for a little bonus feature here, with the replay being in times 1x. So for me, when my defense is getting beaten that easily, and I've got what I feel like is someone like a Skrull on defense, it's time to pull him off defense and just make this defense as tough as I can with more on offense. And so as you can see, that's what I've done. Infinity Watch is still a decent team, and to throw them in one, they'll do what they're designed to do, and that's most likely to pull a Pegasus. And just try to have a lower efficiency. Some guys it will, some guys will have average or slightly above average, but that's the goal here. The hope is not to have some crazy high efficiency with this team in there. Room 2 is just a copycat from what my opponent did. I think it's a tough team. I've tried to figure out ways it can be beat, and what I'm thinking for most guys is going to be Cabal, Zemo, and Titania. Updog did come up with a counter that may work on this room. There was no rogue, but he did the Hive Mind Skrull, and that works. So that's something to consider if you're ready to have Skrull on offense, or you already have Skrull on offense, and Hive Mind on offense as well. And with that in mind, I pulled the Hive Mind Skrull from defense. I'm going to use them on offense, which means I'm pretty much going with a more of a full offense type approach. And since Black Order is built and they get revives, I think Black Order will be a pretty good team to put in here. What I did think about as I was looking at what could happen here, I'm not sure that Cole is the best choice. I'll see how it plays out one time, and then what I may do is put in the Absorbing Man. Mostly because it gives Thanos a chance to get more of his turns off. The question is, if they didn't take in someone that will cancel out the revives, would Thanos get to that anyway? So I'll give that some thought. That may be the change that takes place, that Cole gets pulled, and I put Absorber Man in there. And back over to room 3, I don't think there's much that I can do here for what the room calls for without breaking some serious teams up. And so my thought is, since I have Bishop built and I have maybe a little bit too much, as well as Phoenix, I have them both. They do bring some value to this room as far as when Bishop on spawn, he taunts, and then if a character gets a taunt, which I'm hoping that triggers the Phoenix. I'm not sure if it does, because I'm not sure how the pre-taunt works there. But the hope is that this will delay things enough for Gambit to do his thing, because the only damage here is really Gambit, and then when Phoenix dies, she'll do a health steal, so that might hurt some of their efficiency. But this still is a Masters of Evil counter, and it can be done with precision. The thing is I had Rogue Extreme in here, and my last opponent, as well as other opponents, have countered it with Masters of Evil, the full team with Ultron, and done fairly well. So I don't see a need to try to run that particular combination anymore. The idea is still to say, hey, this is your best bet to run Masters of Evil still on this team if you want to get good efficiency. And they may run something else. They can run Superior 6. They may come up with some other counters that could work well here. But that's the initial design of this room. And piggybacking on how Black Knight and Out of Time have done in this room, I want to stick with that. I'm going to go back to the Tangled Web here, and the only thing different I'm going to do is I'm just going to move Weaver closer to Cap in 99 right next to Black Knight with Peggy in the middle. And we'll see if this can still be distracting the guys and drive down efficiency or get them to overcommit. Room 6 is still very beatable. I just think the counters are limited when you're running Dorm in here, so we're going to try that. If it appears that it's easily beaten, then perhaps Dorm will go to room 4, but at the moment I don't think so. As well as the idea of running Quicksilver in 5 instead of Absorbing Man or Cole. So those are the final thoughts on some changes that could take place today before Trial 2 or after the results from Trial 2 to see what will need to be done for Trial 3. So that's it for this one, guys. A lot of lessons learned from taking a beating like this, but the key thing I'm getting from it is if your defense is getting one shot and your opponent doesn't have Skrull or Apoc on defense, in this case he didn't have Mephisto on defense, then you got to consider going a little bit more offense heavy, because you're not going to be able to make the next level. And for me, the next level is going to be full of Mephistos. Even this level is clearly going to have more Mephistos. And so it's time to make the switch to being able to handle a Mephisto and still a very strong Mercs team in room 2, as well as whatever else may be there, and just hope that there's a chance that I can out-efficiency my opponent with this approach. Okay, guys, chat later.